Hi everyone, it is Atia here at Booking It with Atia, and today we're going to go over all the books that I read during the months of November and December. Before we jump in, make sure that you are subscribed and that you've hit the notification bell so you're notified every time I upload a new video or have live reading sprints, which I've been doing quite a bit of. Before we hop in, I do want to talk about my stats for the months, I should say, of November and December. So I read a total of 91 books. That breaks down to being 31 novels, 2 short story collections, 1 novella, as well as 57 manga. Now going forward, and this is a difference between my last wrap up, but going forward, I'm no longer going to be talking about the manga and comics that I read during a month or bi-monthly period. Instead, you can check out my shorts or my Instagram reels or my TikToks where I will be giving monthly or bi-monthly recaps of all the comics and manga that I'm reading. But in terms of doing it during a sit down wrap up video, we're no longer going to be doing that for the time being. Between the 2 months, I read a total of 10,867 pages. I read for 60.05 hours. My average star rating in November was 4.23 and 4.13 in December. 3 of the books I read were either arcs or gifts from publishers / authors. I read 5.5 physical books, 42.5 ebooks, and 23 audiobooks. 10 books had queer representation, and everything I read was written by an author of color and starred by BIPOC protagonists, and 21 of my reads were 2023 releases. We'll start off with the DNFs. I DNF'd Woman of Light by Kali Fajardo and Stine. I got to 34% in the audiobook. There was nothing objectively bad about this book. I was just bored while I was reading it and I had no desire to go back to it, and we're not trying to have that type of energy in our reading life, so I just DNF'd it, and if you want it, it is up on my Pango Books storefront. So there are some books that I read during the months of November and December that I will not be talking about because they are part of video vlog projects. I do quite a few of those, and I've been filming quite a few of those. So there is one vlog that is already out, my cozy reading vlog, and these are the books that I read during that vlog. Then we have a few upcoming projects that have not been released yet, and these are the books that I read for those videos. So to find out all my thoughts on those books, you would check out those particular videos, but I will not be speaking about them in this video. Now, I want to mention something because this is also going to affect the books that I will not be talking about. It's like, what am I going to talk about? This will affect the books that I am not going to talk about in this wrap up and going forward until this matter is resolved. So in case you've been on Instagram, Threads, probably Twitter, TikTok, and also just different parts of the booktube sphere, you might have heard about the St. Martin's Press marketing boycott. Okay, so very briefly, a few months ago, it was revealed that one of the employees of St. Martin's Press was not only posting a lot of racist, supremacist, Islamophobic rhetoric on their private social media, but also they were withholding arcs from Muslim and Middle Eastern creators. St. Martin's Press is aware of this. They have not addressed it. I believe this started in either September or, no, it started in October. Nope, yep. Started in October. It is now, when I'm filming this, January 18th, and there has been no corrective action. So until this is resolved and we get some actual steps going forward about how they're going to address and make sure that all creators and all of their authors under their imprints are protected and not harmed by this rhetoric, I will not be talking about promoting, basically doing free marketing for anything that falls under the St. Martin's Press, which happens to be St. Martin's Press, of course, Griffin, Minotaur, St. Martin's Paperbacks, Wednesday Books, which is actually the particular imprint that this employee is under, Castle Point Books, and St. Martin essentials. This doesn't mean, because I know people be like, well, what about the authors? This doesn't mean that you don't read and buy or borrow the books. It's just not talking about them, not marketing them, and not giving the St. Martin's Press and all of their imprints free advertisement when they have not addressed something that has been pointed out to them for months now. So because of that, there are actually 4 books that I read during the months of November and December that I won't be talking about, and this is my stance until this issue is resolved. And for more info, I encourage you to go and follow Readers for Accountability on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. I'm not sure if they have a Twitter because I'm not on Twitter anymore, but it's quite possible that they do. Editing me will put the answer to that someplace. Okay, and now to actually get into what I read. We're of course going to start with my 3 stars, which is going to encompass my 3.25, my 3.5, and my 3.75 reads as well. So first up, we're going to start with Artifact by Gigi Pandian. This is a fast-paced, adventurous mystery with a touch of romance, following a determined historian as she uncovers a lost Indian treasure and deciphers cryptic clues amidst a cast of quirky characters. And that is taken straight from the story graph. I did not come up with that. The story graph now has AI like doing their quick synopses, so I will be utilizing those. So yeah, this is the start of a cozy mystery series that's a bit older. This book was published in 2012, and there are at least 5 books in this series. I like the mystery, the main character Jaya Jones, and I definitely want to read more in this series. I'm waiting, fingers crossed, I am waiting for my library to get the audiobooks for the rest of the series, and then I'll probably just binge this in one go. And I gave Artifact by Gigi Pandian 3.5 stars. Next up, we have Man-Made Monsters by Andrea L. Rogers. This is a short story horror collection that follows the lineage of one indigenous family from pre-colonial times into the future. Most of the stories in this collection were subpar, but it had quite a few standouts that saved the collection for me, which is why I gave it 3.5 stars, because some of the stories I rated like 1 or 2 stars, and then some of the stories I rated like 4.5 and up. So there was no consistency. I would be interested in reading more from this author in the future, but this collection just did not work for me. Next up, we have The Fake Boyfriend Fiasco by Talia Hibbert. If you are new here, you might not remember that Talia Hibbert is one of my favorite authors, like favorite authors, and I haven't read one of her books in a while, so I was excited to jump back into her writing. And this is fast-paced, funny. It has 2 characters that work together so perfectly. It's a little bit on the insta-lovey part with our male protagonist Nick, but he's very upfront and very real about the fact that he's like, there's no logical reason why I should be in love with this woman, but I am. What was weird was how we didn't really get to see the 2 of them develop this relationship. Well, I guess I should tell you what it's about. It is a fake dating scenario. These 2 characters, and of course I forgot the other character's name. Yeah, I really forgot her name. Wow. They meet at a mutual friend's wedding, and Nick is like, hey, will you be my fake girlfriend on this trip that I have to go to in a few weeks, because I need essentially a bodyguard because all the women love me and they'll be attacking me. And she's like, oh yeah, whatever, fine. But she's like, you're a stranger, so we're not just gonna meet up in a couple weeks and I'll go with you. And so they spend weeks getting to know each other, but we as the reader are not privy to those weeks they spend together. We go from them meeting and then we jump to the future. So we don't get to see that repertoire that they build with one another, which is why I wasn't feeling the romance, honestly. And I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. Next up, we have American Spy by Lauren Wilkinson. This follows a Black woman who works for the FBI during the Cold War and is routinely overlooked until she is sent undercover to find out information about Thomas Sankara, the president of Burkina Faso, and help dismantle the rising communist government building in Burkina Faso, as well as the fallout to that mission. I found it interesting how this book is told in hindsight. It is essentially the journal of our protagonist that she plans on giving to her two young sons when they come of age, because I believe are they twins? Yeah, they're twins. I forget how young they are, but they're pretty young, and she plans on giving them this journal when they reach like teenage years. And it's a fast-paced spy thriller that has commentary on race, misogynoir, and of course colonialism and imperialism. And I ended up giving this one 3.75 stars. Next up, we have Barbacoa, Bomba, and Betrayal by Raquel V. Reyes. This is the third book in the A Caribbean Kitchen Cozy Mystery series that follows Miriam, our protagonist, to Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic as she becomes entangled in a mystery spanning across two countries and possibly involving her parents. The characters, as always, were top tier. I really love the community that Miriam has surrounded herself with, and how we keep getting these fun characters and how they keep growing and developing as each book continues. It was fun. At first, I wanted a little bit more investigating from Miriam, but it makes sense that she didn't do as much as we're used to, because she really did not want to be investigating. Like, she went to visit her parents, and then all of a sudden, you know, people dropping dead. Like, that was not in her plans, and I gave this one 3.75 stars. Next up, we're going to move on to my 4 and 4.25 stars, starting with Sewa Boateng's Guide to Witchcraft and Mayhem by Roseanne A. Brown. This is the sequel to Sewa Boateng's Guide to Vampire Hunting, which follows a preteen vampire hunter that must save her abducted family. I loved the inclusion of Ghanaian folklore and Sewa's continued growth as she tries to decide like who she is and what to believe, but also how to be true to herself, and I gave this one 4 stars. Then we have Murder and Mammon by Mia P. Manasala. Just as Lila's aunties are opening up their own laundromat amid a ton of controversy, one of the aunties visiting nieces is found dead in the laundromat and a whole host of secrets are unveiled. I loved how much of the aunties we get in this one and the inner look of their relationships with one another. In previous books, they are prevalent characters. In previous books, they're there as emotional caretakers for Lila and some comic relief, but in this one, you really got to see them develop and just be full-fledged characters and people in their own right, and I gave this one 4 stars. Then we have Adia Kalbara and the Circle of Shamans. According to the story graph, this is a start of an Afro fantasy trilogy that follows a 12-year-old girl who is thought to be an Obanji and ends up apprenticing in the kitchens at the prestigious Academy of Shamans and must ally with a snarky goddess and a knife-wielding warrior to save her kingdom. I love the commentary on cultural appropriation, the interaction between the characters, as well as the magic system, and I'm really looking forward to the sequel of this one because I do believe, yeah, it said this was the start of a series, yeah, and it says it's book 1. So I'm really looking forward to continuing on with this series, and I gave this one 4 stars. Then we have Out There Screaming, edited by Jordan Peele. This is a recently released anthology of new Black horror by 19 Black authors. It features many different types of horrors, from the psychological to the paranormal to the tangible, and my favorite stories were by Rebecca Roanhorse, Justin C. Key, L.D. Lewis, Maurice Broaddus, P. Jelly Clark, and Tochi Onyebuchi, and I gave the overall collection 4 stars. Then we have The List by Yomi Adegoke. Definitely has a lot to say about rape culture, casual misogyny, and the relationship between black women and black men, and the dynamic between these two groups that sometimes causes harm to black women because of how the world treats one or the other. If you don't know what this one is about, it is a contemporary that follows, of course, who are their names, Ola, and she is about like a month away from marrying the love of her life, Michael, and she gets a text about the list, and she works in media, and this list is prominent abusers or assaulters in the media world in London, and her fiance is on that list. And so we follow their just journey leading up to the wedding with this information, and I gave this one 4 stars. Next up, we have As the Wicked Watch by Tamron Hall. This is an investigative journalist. This is a mystery book that follows investigative journalist Jordan Manning as she tries to find out what exactly happened when a young black girl goes missing and then is found, and how there might actually be the potential of a serial killer in this black neighborhood. Really enjoyed this. It was hard-hitting, it was fast-paced but not too fast-paced. You really see Jordan putting together the pieces and really doing investigating, and I look forward to the next book in this series, which is Something. I'll put the cover here because I believe we recently got a cover and release date, but I will be reading that when it comes out, and I gave As the Wicked Watch 4 stars. Next up, another mystery thriller-esque type book is Rogue Justice by Stacey Abrams. This is book 2 in the Avery Keene series that follows the events of While Justice Sleeps. That is also just like really gripping well, I guess it has some hints of espionage-esque elements, but I don't want to... Technically, you can read them separately, but I wouldn't. But just know that they're both really good and I recommend them. And this is gripping, it's fast-paced, and it's an engaging spy-esque thriller that's full of political intrigue and a close look at how US politics works behind closed doors, and I gave this one 4.25 stars. Next up, we have Glory Be by Danielle Arsenault. This is a fun start to a cozy mystery series that I definitely plan on continuing. This is a 2023 release, so I don't know when the second book will be coming out in this series, but I do look forward to it. And so basically, the way that this starts off is we have Glory, and she is an older black woman, I believe she's in like her 60s or something like that. She has a fully grown adult daughter, and she's prominent in her church community, and her best friend, who was a nun, is found dead. It is decided that her death was a suicide, and Glory is like, that don't make no type of sense, and she, as well as her daughter, begin to investigate. Glory is a bit judgy. She's real judgmental, and at first I was a little turned off by that, but what I appreciated is that there are so many people in Glory's circle that check her on her judginess, and so you do see her growing, especially because she is by no means a perfect character or a perfect person, and she has to come to terms with that. I ended up giving this one 4.25 stars. Then we have another Stacey Abrams book, The Art of Desire. This is a fun romantic suspense novel that I would absolutely definitely reread. High stakes, tense, but also super romantic. Stacey Abrams really knows how to balance romance with political intrigue and action. She does it exceptionally well, and I have been loving just reading this genre from her, and I gave The Art of Desire 4.25 stars. Moving into my 4.5 and 5-star reads, I had quite a few of them in the months of November, December. It was a pretty awesome end to the year, and we're going to start out by talking about City of the Plague God by Sarwat Chadha, and this one is really fun, and also it was kind of surprising how much I loved this book. It is a middle grade fantasy that follows a Muslim American teen, Sikh Aziz, as the ancient Mesopotamian god of plagues and war arrives in New York City and begins to wreak havoc. I loved the character of Sikh. I loved him so much. He's smart, he's funny, and he's always taking into consideration those around him. His friendship with Bellet, which starts out pretty rocky and like, okay, how do they fit together, was just perfect. And Bellet is actually the adopted daughter of the Mesopotamian god of love and war, and their friendship is just perfect. Like I said, it starts out bumpy, but it's satisfying seeing them become tentative friends amidst essentially the apocalypse, right? And I gave this one 4.5 stars. Another middle grade fantasy that I read was The Memory Thieves by Danielle Clayton. This is book 2 in the Marvelers. It's a middle grade fantasy series that features a magical school and a secret society of magic wielders that also deals with racism and discrimination and features conjure magic. This is a near perfect sequel to the first book that raises the stakes. It takes a deep dive into the hatred and danger that xenophobia breeds, and it builds on an already fascinating world and magic system. I gave this book 4.75 stars, and I really do hope and believe that we're going to get a third book, because there were some things in this one that were left unresolved. Then we have Fledgling by Octavia E. Butler. This follows a 50-something-year-old amnesiac vampire who wakes up in the body of a preteen and realizes that her entire family is dead, and she is the only one of her kind who can be awake and outside during the daytime. So now she must figure out like who she is, who targeted her family, and if they're coming after her, and if so, why. It's an interesting and on-point commentary on race, interracial relationships, and community, and it kept me engaged and wanting to know what was going to happen next. The character of Shuri, who is our protagonist, is smart and determined, and she has a little bit of a sarcastic side, which I appreciated. And this is honestly top tier vampire horror, and I gave this one 4.75 stars. Next up, we have Fury of the Dragon Goddess by Sarwat Chadha, and this is sequel to City of the Plague God. This was absolutely excellent. Again, another almost perfect sequel to a middle grade fantasy opener, and this one explores healing from grief, and it also builds on the relationships that we get to see blossom in book 1, and I gave this one 4.75 stars. Then we have what ended up being my all-time favorite book of 2023, and that is Disorientation by Elaine Hsay Cho. I freaking ate this book up. I loved it. Go read it. I would never be able to actually give you a synopsis that makes any sense, so I'm just going to read the inside flap, if you will indulge me, okay? 29-year-old PhD student Ingrid Yang is desperate to finish her dissertation on the late canonical poet Zhao Wenqiu and never read about Chinesey things again. But after 4 years of grueling research, she has only anxiety and stomach pain to show for her efforts. When she accidentally stumbles upon a strange and curious note in the Cho archives, she convinces herself it's her ticket out of academic hell. But Ingrid's in much deeper than she thinks. Her clumsy exploits to unravel the note's message lead to an explosive discovery, upending her entire life and the lives of those around her. With her trusty friend Eunice Kim by her side and her rival Vivian Vo hot on her tail, together they set off a roller coaster of mishaps and misadventures, from campus protests and over-the-counter drug hallucinations to book burnings and yellow peril propaganda. In the aftermath, nothing looks the same to Ingrid, including her gentle and doting fiancé, Stephen Green. When he embarks on a book tour with the super kawaii Japanese author he's translated, doubts and insecurities creep in for the first time. As the events Ingrid instigated keep spiraling, she'll have to confront her sticky relationship to white men and white institutions, and most of all, herself. An uproarious and big-hearted satire, alive with sharp edges, immense warmth, and a cast of unforgettable characters. Disorientation is a blistering send-up of privilege and power, and a profound reckoning of individual complicity and unspoken rage. In this electrifying debut novel from a provocative new voice, Elaine Hasay-Cho asks who gets to tell our stories and how the story changes when we finally tell it ourselves. This book was so good. This book is trippy. It's definitely disorienting. Like, you feel off kilter the entire time you're reading it, and it's the best feeling ever, to be quite honest. The commentary on the model minority myth, race relations between non-white people in academia, race relations between white people and BIPOC on college campuses, and the question of who gets to write what and why was excellent. Superb, outstanding, perfect even. Ingrid's growth is messy, it's cringeworthy, it's heartbreaking and cathartic all at once, and I am absolutely going to read more from this author. And if you couldn't tell, I gave Disorientation 5 stars. 5 out of 5 stars, probably one of the easiest 5 stars I gave in 2023. But yeah, that's my wrap up for November and December. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what was your favorite book of 2023. Make sure that you have liked this video and are subscribed, and that you've hit the notification bell so you are notified every time I release a new video. Check out all of my socials down below, as well as my Etsy, Penguin Bookshop, and the link to my book club's Discord. And I will check you in the next video. Bye!
Showing. I ain't living for the moment. I see what's mine and I want it. Hungry like a Pac-Man. I'm Bruce Wayne and Batman. I'm Naruto with a Hanzo. Got a sharp mind like I'm Einstein. Plus I'm copywriting, so it's all mine. Check it for me, I'm in the sky.